And if you look at where the missiles are being launched from, they're being launched from the middle of their country. So, like, if you look at the map of Iran, it seems to all be coming from squarely in the guts of the country, which means the carrier group to the south can't get at them. You
Oh,
can't get at them from the north. The only place you could really get at them is from the Saudi side, going as a straight beeline across the map there. That's what they were doing. But last time they turned off the internet, they turned off the power, they did it all at night time. People were snoozing. And you might remember last time there was this like huge build up. It was a longer build up than what we experienced this time. And they all suffer from what's known as readiness fatigue. That will they, won't they? Will they, won't they? On the bus, off the bus. So they're coming this time. All right, get ready. We're ready. Nothing happens. Go back. Get ready. Oh, again, get ready. Get ready. And all of this back and forth thing, all of this. And the reason that they do that is they're trying to tease out what the enemy are actually going to do, and the enemy being the Israelis and Americans. What are they going to do? And the Iranians, what are they going to do? Both sides are doing the same thing to each other. Like, it's just horrendous how tyrannical that society is. So if you were in a society like that, if I live in a tyranny right now, and it's something like that's never going to happen in Australia, because Australia is a peaceful country and it's a prosperous country, and we can pretty much do and say whatever we want, irrespective of whether or not we do or don't have guns. I could never see something like that happening here. But under a Sharia law tyranny, would you, as an individual, would you go and rally your mates together and go, come on, man, Donald Trump's got our back, and he said this is the only chance that we're going to get? There's very few people, man, that are part of the warrior class.
hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hey Ed YouTube channel. I am your host, moderator, and all-around nice guy, Edward Anderson, along with another nice guy, brilliant guy, down under in Australia. Hey, Robbie, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Ed, I'm really well, mate. How about yourself?
Living the dream. Thanks for asking. While you were sleeping, the U.S. government took down yet another foreign government.
Did they? Did
Yeah.
they now? Did they
uh,
did they get him?
Uh, well, if they didn't get them, I think. Well, we'll see. We'll see. They got a lot of people. I don't know whether
Yeah.
they get. I don't know whether they got the chief asshat or not. But the if I were him, I'd be looking for. I would crawl him through some tunnel to Moscow right now if I were him. He's got to have some escape route to Moscow. I would imagine.
There's a rat line there.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. So then look, our audience can always depend on Rob Bruss and Ed Anderson doing a podcast every time America attacks a foreign country. So we're here for you, my friends. All right, so yeah, so let's get. I know your time is limited. You just woke up. You're going to be hitting the road, I suppose, on your Bugatti. So.
I wish my Ducati.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I saw it. Yeah, yeah. So you must be enjoying the bike, huh?
Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. It's one of those things that I haven't had for a long time, just because I'm trying to be responsible and be a responsible dad. Because it's very dangerous, of course. But now the kids are all grown up, I
That's
decided
right.
I'd go and I'd go right back to being 20 years old again and tearing around at Mark 9 with my hair on fire, which is good fun.
And your wife is okay with it as long as the insurance policy is current, right?
Yeah, the life insurance policy, not the
Yeah,
bike
exactly.
insurance
Yeah,
policy. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. She's good.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, good to see you, man. All right, so let's get into it a little bit. All right. So there are a lot of aspects to this whole event going on. So on our last podcast that we did after the Venezuela attack, um, we talked a lot about how we thought this wasn't really about Venezuela. It's about a lot more. It's about the U.S. dollar. It's about finances, and it's about Donald Trump's attempt to reshape the geopolitics. Uh, so he took Venezuela off the table. All right, so they're not a threat anymore. Now Iran. I mean, we thought Iran would be next, and so her first question to you is, what do you think is going through the minds right now of Putin and Xi?
For some reason, I heard somebody say it the other day. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Scott Ritter. He said politicians like to be half pregnant. And you can't be half pregnant, right? You're either fully pregnant or you're not. You either are or you aren't. And I think one of the issues that we're suffering from as we're watching this series of events unfold is there hasn't been a decisive blow as we've seen yet, but the narrative is controlled by the media, but the narrative seems to be driven by Telegram and by X as well of what's going on. So if you look at your X feed, you'll see the same things in your Telegram feed. And if you don't see them in X, pretty soon you'll see what's in Telegram in X. So people are using those things and bypassing mainstream media. I don't know, maybe it's the way my feeds are curated. I'm not really seeing much mainstream media in X or certainly not in Telegram. And I don't see much coverage in YouTube either. I think maybe because it's early days as well and no one knows anything and they'd rather say nothing than try and report on something or try and concoct a story about nothing. It's very difficult. I have seen some reports of Israeli media saying that they actually got the head ass crack, as you say, or ass hat, as you put him. Hopefully that is true, that it's been shouting death to America for the last 48 years, and death to the great Satan, which is you guys in the US, and death to the little Satan in Israel. And you have to take people at their word when people are saying that, and when the entire parliament is standing there shouting, pumping their fist and saying that, you have to take them at their word. That's actually what they want. And what we've seen in the last 24 hours is them do exactly what they say they're going to do. They said, if you attack us, we're going to attack all of your bases in the region. And all right, well, they attacked everybody. They attacked Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Kuwait. What do the poor old Kuwaitis do over there? You know, there's nothing in Kuwait. Kuwait's about as big as a suburb as you live in. You know, there's 2 runways and 9 people that live there and 14 camels. Like, what do the poor Kuwaitis do over there? Anyway, I see that the Iranian leadership being true to their word and doing what they say they're going to do, but are they causing any sort of pain, or are these just pinprick attacks that are going to go on over extended periods of time? Well, I think the answer to that question is unknown so far. What I haven't seen on either side is what seems like a decisive blow. And if they did get the head ass hat, then that is a decisive blow. But then what happens from there? You know, if you just rewind the clock, we got rid of Saddam. Saddam ran away and went to his local village where he grew up and hid in a hole for months at a time. And the whole thing unraveled in the regime change. And Trump yesterday coming out saying, this might be your only chance to go and seize control of your government. But don't you think the government's got a plan for that already? Even if the leadership is decapitated, they'll have a plan that's 5 levels deep, and they've got all the guns as well. So I'm not sure it's been thought through all the way through. And if it continues for any length of time, coming all the way around to your question, you know, what is Xi Jinping doing? What is Putin doing? I think Putin's too busy to do anything. I think Xi Jinping would be looking at this with great delight. And the longer the war goes on, the more protracted it becomes. I think what happens is he elbows his mate in North Korea and goes, hey, I've been giving you all that stuff for a while. It's time for you to attack South Korea. Get going. And the attack on South Korea happens. And while that happens, the Americans get tied up in that. And then Xi Jinping goes for Taiwan. And that's in a couple of months' time. That works perfectly with the weather and all the landings that they need to do. Nobody can fight a war on multiple fronts like that. Not the Iranians, not the Russians, not the Americans, not anybody. It's not possible to do that. I hear all this scuttlebutt in the media about everybody saying, oh, we don't have the weapons, we don't have the missiles, we don't have. And I just hear that and think it's all complete and total and absolute nonsense. It's garbage. The only people that know what we have, meaning, and I say we because Australia is just a vassal state of the United States. As soon as they say, bring your growlers over here, bring your planes over here, bring your ships over here, we're going. Like we will capitulate and do exactly what Donald Trump tells us to do. But the only people that really know what the ammunition stockpiles look like and the weapon systems look like are the people that control those things in logistics. Everybody else in open source intelligence and every analyst that's ever been in the Pentagon or the White House or someplace doesn't have any idea about what we do or don't have. Nobody has any idea about the capabilities or limitations of the American Air Force and the American Navy. And certainly they have no idea about the American submarine force, which will sink the entire Chinese Navy in an afternoon. Like it just, I've been on the receiving end of those American submarines and they win every single freaking time. Yeah. There is no beating them. You cannot beat them.
Go America. Yeah.
Go America. Go Team USA, man. I'm glad I'm on that side. You know, Xi Jinping thinking that he can play 3 or 4D chess, but what he doesn't factor in is the Virginia class submarines, the Los Angeles class submarines from the Cold War are still going to ruin your Navy and destroy everything. And that's not even coming close to factoring in any of the drone technology that we now have as well, the underwater drone technology that is already in the Straits. That's already there. That's something like that is just not factored in. And I also think one thing that's happened in the last couple of hours, I've noticed in the media, and I've seen it on all of the AIS tracking, is that they actually have closed the Straits of Hormuz. And something that's been quite surprising to me, that's been war games like forever, is what happens when they close the Straits of Hormuz. Well, when you transit through the Straits, you have to ask, you have to call them up on Channel 16, the Iranians that is, and ask them for permission to transit the Straits. And the reason you do that is because you end up in their territorial waters, because it's only 30 miles wide. And I think the territorial waters from memory is like 15 miles off the coast. So 15 miles off the coast of the UAE and 15 miles off the coast of the Iranian side. But when you transit through there, you end up in Iranian territorial waters. That's why you got to call them up on Channel 16 and say, hey, we need to go through here. And they normally they're like, yeah, whatever, you just go through. Like that's fine because it's everybody transits through there. But 30% of the world's oil goes through there on a daily basis. And now that that's shut, if you look at all the AIS feeds, you can see that everything is stuck on the other side of the Straits and nothing is going through there. So I'm quite surprised that the US Navy hasn't bombed all of that into oblivion. And I'm surprised that special forces are not on the ground in that part of the world seizing control of it all. And I think it's just a matter of time before we see that actually happening, because you're not going to be able to stop the Straits of Hormuz being closed with air power alone. You can bomb all of the missile batteries, you can bomb all the command and control, you can bomb everything, you can do everything you want, but you're still going to have people that are on the ground there that are able to stop anything from happening. And what you need to do is to get SF operators in there to actually seize control of that. And I'm sure that that's something that we'll see coming in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, when you were in the Australian Navy, you spent some time in the Strait of Hormuz. You used to be one of those guys with the binoculars, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We in 1996, I went on Operation Damask, and that was the first Australian warship deployment to the Persian Gulf since the first Gulf War. So the first Gulf War ended in 1991. America won that war in that part of the world in about like 25 minutes. They sunk all the Iraqi Navy. There's some actually really cool stories of how all of that happened. You know, it's interesting because you train your entire career in the Navy for something like that to happen. And then in the afternoon, literally in one afternoon, the aircraft carrier conducts an alpha strike and gets rid of somebody else's Navy. Like, man, you don't want to be on the receiving end of that, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
The US Navy is like one incredible thing. And that's the reason that you guys don't have free medical and dental, is because you've got the ability to do that. I always thought that. I remember the Americans tasked us with going right up against the coast of Iraq. So there's only one waterway that leads into Iraq between Iraq and Iran. It's called the KAA. And it's actually really shallow. And our guided missile frigate, this dinosaur from the 1980s Cold War, has got a very shallow draft. So it's not very deep in the water. So because it's shallow there, we could get right up against the waterway there. And you have to actually look with your Mark 1 eyeball or your helicopter, just launch the helicopter up over the horizon a little bit, and the ships would come out of the Iraqi side and they would hug the Iranian coast. And as they come south along the Iranian coast, there's like dozens and dozens of oil fields, and there's hundreds and hundreds of boats. And what happens is the tankers would come out of Iraq, and we were enforcing the so-called US sanctions against Iraq. The tankers would come out, they would hug the Iranian coast, they would meet an Iranian vessel or some other vessel halfway in Iranian waters. They'd stop like this, much like the Russian Shadow Fleet is doing now. They would stop midway. They would offload their cargo. They would drive around each other in a couple of circles, and one would go that way, one would go that way, and we go, which one was which? I don't know. I was watching very carefully on the radar there, but I can't tell which one. And the skipper would have to flip a coin. We go left, we go right. And you go left, and the guy stays in Iranian territorial waters and back up the KAA, so there's nothing you can do. Or the other guy comes down the Iranian coastline and then at some point makes a break and tries to get across to the other side, to the UAE or Saudi or something like that. And a couple of times they did that. You know, the skipper would put right of the Valkyries on and we'd go steaming over the horizon at 35 knots as fast as this little warship could carry us, and launch the helicopter, and we would board these ships, and you'd be in there with guns and you'd get right up to the bridge, and the most illegal thing they'd have in there was like a Mars bar wrapper. and there was nothing. That was the wrong ship. Damn it! A couple of times that had happened to us, but it was a hell of an adventure. But it's not something that the normal person would know or understand. It is a very, very crowded place. It's not very big. It's not very deep. It's hot as hell. It's like 50, 55 degrees Celsius during the middle of the day. So it's very hard for helicopters to operate in that because of the air density and things like that. It's punishing on human resources because of the heat as well. The further north you go, the hotter it becomes. The further south, it's a bit more temperate, of course, but it's still very, very uncomfortably hot. And operating in that environment is very, very difficult. And, that's the Iranians' backyard. That's their home. That's what they're used to. Or, they have the home ground advantage when it comes to that. But what they don't have is, 2,000-pound JDAMs raining down on anybody else's head. They've got missiles that are raining down on everybody else's head, and these shitty Shahid Jones crashing into apartment blocks right now, killing innocent civilians for no particular reason. They're not military targets. What on earth could you be possibly doing? It's no different to the Russian terror attacks that they're doing in Kyiv every night, where they fly these drones. Somebody's sitting at a desk looking at the GPS coordinates going, yeah, let's hit that building. Yeah, hit that building at that level, at that altitude, and it will cause the maximum chaos and the maximum terror. And somebody in Iran is doing exactly the same thing now. Oh, we're trying to take out your military targets. We're trying to do this. We're trying to bullshit, man. I'm seeing you hit civilian targets. I'm seeing your stuff being shot down, landing on civilian targets, and I'm seeing that you are not as capable as you claim you are. You've got a lot of missiles and you have this missile technology, but at the end of the day, how are you going to make us capitulate against missile pinprick attacks? Even if you launch 500 missiles at an airbase and you destroy the airbase, you go, oh, thanks, man. Now what? We'll just get some bulldozers and excavators and we'll rebuild it. Now what? You destroyed the airfield. So what? There's no possible way Iran can win because they can't destroy our command and control. But we can lose. We can lose if we don't meet our objectives. And, all the naysayers saying that we don't have enough ammunition, forget that countries like Australia are right here. And if you're getting low on ammo, hey, come over here. And if the Brits have come out this morning and said, yep, we're part of it as well. So, you've got the British stockpile, you've got the Australian stockpile, which is pretty small. But then you've got the NATO stockpile. Now you're talking. Now we're getting somewhere. So it's ours to lose is the way I'm thinking of it.
Okay, so let me ask you a typical civilian question. So when they show these graphics on the news, and they show a picture of Iran with all these dots, with the explosion image, right? We took that out, there's like all over the place. It looks like we're freaking decimating the poor country. Yet they still manage to lob missiles into Qatar and all their neighboring countries. So is it possible for us to identify all of their missile sites and destroy them all, even if it takes a little bit of time? Is it possible to identify where they all are, or are they hidden too well?
It's not that you can't identify them. I bet you they know exactly the second that they come out of their little hidey holes. They're spider holes. They come out. They're inside of container trucks. The lid of the container opens up. The missiles come. Off they go. I reckon they can see those launchers within 2 seconds because the Sibers system is looking down at ballistic missile launchers. And the ballistic missile launchers, we know exactly what they look like. We know exactly where they are. But the place is so damn big, we don't have close air support over the top of Iran 24/7, covering all of Iran 24/7. And if you look at where the missiles are being launched from, they're being launched from the middle of their country. So, if you look at the map of Iran, it seems to all be coming from squarely in the guts of the country, which means the carrier group to the south can't get at them. You can't get at them from the north. The only place you could really get at them is from the Saudi side, going as a straight beeline across the map there, across the Gulf, to actually get at them. So what they've got is the tyranny of distance, which is stopping us from actually doing something. We know when every single one of those launches happens, and then we can prepare for that. And within a couple of moments, you can see the trajectory. But the issue is that even if they're launching from the middle of Iran, it only takes less than 10 minutes for something to land in Bahrain on the other side. It's not very big. Even if Iran, is 500 kilometers in the middle of Iran, once the missile is into space and it's outside of space and it's following that ballistic arc and raining down from space onto you, it doesn't take long to get there. Those launches are very hard to anticipate. How many missiles do they actually have? No one knows. The only people that really know are the Iranians. The American intelligence and all of our side, we don't know how many missiles they've got. We just don't know because it's not possible to have that level of precise clarity. You don't know. The best you can do is another way to describe it is it's pitching and catching, right? So those Iranians are pitching and we're kind of catching, and every now and then a couple of these get through. And what all the naysayers will say is, oh, Iran has more missiles that they can fire at us than we've got interceptor missiles that we can fire against them. But one thing that seems a little bit unclear to me, when you think about the way a decapitation strike would work, we know, I know right now I could go on Google and find out every single member of the House of Representatives and the Senate. And with half a brain and half a government's worth of intelligence, I can find out where each one of those single people lives. I can find out where they go to work and what their pattern of life is. So I know when they're at work and I know when they're at home. Well, everybody's got to go to bed, man. I guarantee you that at 2 o'clock in the morning, most of them are at home. Some of them are probably out doing, working, partying, whatever, with their friends and family. But most people are at home. I don't understand why 2 rounds per person don't land, one in their house and one in the parliament or where they go to work or wherever their office is. It doesn't seem to make a decapitation strike seems to be like the easiest possible thing you could do from the air.
Well, that is what they've been doing, right? They said they're targeting their leadership. Now, apparently, U.S. is responsible for going after the military targets, and Israel is taking upon themselves to go after the human targets. But they are going after the leadership. And I saw one graphic on the PBD earlier in the day.
Yep.
They showed, so eliminated. And the only one left was the chief asshat. So they are apparently going after leadership. So that was going to be my next question. Do we have to actually get the actual missile launching sites, or can we disable them in other ways, such as taking down their internet capabilities? I mean, we've heard that the company is essentially internet free right now. No one can get on the internet because they disabled their capabilities. So can't we just disable, the supporting utilities that goes into launching a missile, or are they independent?
I would suggest to you that they've got a plan, and of course they've got a plan. That's like saying the sky is blue, but the 12-day war that we had showed exactly, both sides showed their hands. The Israelis showed their hand. Here's how we're going to operate with people on the ground, and we'll find where those missile launches are. We'll launch FPV drones at them and destroy them from the ground, so you don't have to send your expensive $100 million airplane over here to try and drop a bomb on it and risk it. So that's what they were doing. But last time they turned off the internet, they turned off the power, they did it all at nighttime. People were snoozing. And you might remember last time there was this huge buildup. It was a longer buildup than what we experienced this time. And they all suffer from what's known as readiness fatigue. Will they, won't they? Will they, won't they? On the bus, off the bus. So they're coming this time. All right, get ready. We're ready. Nothing happens. Go back. Get ready. Oh, again, get ready. Get ready. And all of this back and forth thing, all of this. And the reason that they do that is they're trying to tease out what the enemy are actually going to do. And the enemy being the Israelis and Americans, what are they going to do? And the Iranians, what are they going to do? Both sides are doing the same thing to each other. And that's what the readiness fatigue is designed to do, to try and gather the intelligence. And part of the Iranian thing, if you had half a brain in your head and you thought about it for 2 seconds, you'd say, well, what happens when they turn the power off and my radio doesn't work and they're jamming me? What do I do? And they would already have a list of preset things. This is part of the problem with a centralized regime where they're controlling every aspect of what goes on. If you rewind the clock to something like the early Vietnam era, they used to have on the Soviet side in the Cold War era, they used to launch their Air Force, and it was, when you think about how they did it, it's actually pretty amazing. The pilots would get in these high performance airplanes. Back in the day, they were high performance for what they were. They were like the best of the best, right? They'd get in the plane, they'd take off, and they go, okay, which way? Which way, bro? And the guy on the ground, the GCI, the ground control intercept officer, would say, all right, make your heading 190. 190 at 12,000 feet. At your 2 o'clock low, there's the intercept. And there was some guy on the ground as a radar operator, a ground control interceptor, controlling one of the most valuable assets a country has, the fighter pilot and the jet. And so this is a centralized form of command. These days, that's not what happens. These days, they're given a brief, they're given a mission, and off they go. And the contingencies are based around what happens in the briefing. So a mission might take you 2 or 3 hours to fly, but they might do 5 or 6 hours worth of briefing. And on the first day of the war, they've probably done 2 weeks worth of briefing, and they've probably actually gone and flown it in simulated scenarios. They're getting ready for all of these things. It's making it all happen. They come back and debrief it. Did we get them? I'm not sure. What does the BDA say? What does the reconnaissance say? Did we get them? Did we get them? No, go and do it again. And the second time they do it from a different angle, a different way, or a different reason. So I look at it and say, well, what if we can see every launch that's going on? Why can't we attack them? Well, we have the tyranny of distance. That's the first thing. And then if we can see the launches, how are they launching if we've jammed them and we turned off the internet and we've destroyed their communications? How and the cyber attacks and all of that stuff? How are they doing that? Well, it's a completely decentralized command, meaning if your communications are cut off and I'm going to check in with you every 12 hours or every 6 hours or every 30 minutes or whatever it is. And if you don't hear from me within 30 minutes, here's the targets that you're going to go for. Here, go. And if you're being jammed, this is what goes on. So it's a bit of an if then type scenario. And it would be completely decentralized because of what happened in the 12-day war previously. We know, last time we were connected, there was a landline, everything was working, I could talk to you, I knew exactly, we were in a fixed position. But you have to remember that the vast majority of Iran's missile launchers are mobile missile launchers. And they've got hundreds and hundreds of trucks that look like shipping containers, and there's 2 missiles on the inside of them, sometimes one really big missile on the inside of them. They look like a 20-foot container. Some of them are 40-foot containers that have a big missile in them. And they drive around, and like looking down with a satellite, looking down with drones, we can see all of these trucks driving around. But can we actually tell if there's a missile in that thing? Well, I don't know. I don't have visibility of those things. And even if the truck pulled up and was acting suspicious and it was getting ready to set up and launch, you're watching that happen in real time. Sybis picks up the launch. What are you going to do about it? Like, it's too far away. It's 500 kilometers away from anything. There's nothing you can do. And they fire that missile at great range, and they can launch over the horizon into space and rain down on you 10 minutes later. That's the true strength of their capability. That's the true strength of the CCP's capability as well, their missile and rocket force and their ability to overwhelm them. I'm surprised that they haven't leveled Tel Aviv. I'm surprised that they haven't launched half of their arsenal at Tel Aviv and attacked their nuclear power plants. I'm surprised the Americans haven't taken down Bandar Abbas in the Straits of Hormuz and destroyed that part of the world and Karg Island and fixed all of that. I'm surprised that it's like unraveling so slowly. Like, I thought it would have been overwhelming, but the Iranian side is just pinprick attacks, just one missile here, one missile there. The American side seems to be like, well, this is shock and awe. Well, how come they've closed the Straits of Hormuz? Like, what? How? What? I don't know. Maybe it's just too early, and it's the fog of war we just haven't seen. And then in the next couple of days, that will lift, and we'll see where that arrives.
Well, I guess your memo is still sitting on someone's desk.
Yeah. What are you doing, man? Hurry up. Get in there. You're going to do it. Yeah. Do it properly. You can't be half pregnant, man.
Yeah.
You can't go in there and say, we told you. We told you. Now stop. Like, no, man. It's like if I'm the bouncer in the pub and somebody's misbehaving, I'm going to put you in a wrist lock. I'm not going to put you in a wrist lock and say, calm down, you've had enough to drink. I'm going to put you in a wrist lock and I'm going to take you all the way outside and say, go away, you can't come back in. And if you try and come back in, I'll call the police. I'll take you all the way out. I'm not going to just put you in a wrist lock and say, calm down, man, stop fighting or stop drinking. I'm like, what? And I'm afraid that's what Donald Trump is like going to do. But that's what I thought he was going to do. But yesterday's speech kind of said to me that no, he is going to go all the way through with this. He's going to go all the way through. Well, but what we don't know is we just don't know what the Houthis are going to do, because they've got a lot of missiles too. Are they going to fire them at Israel? You know, is day X coming where there is going to be 500 missiles raining down from space onto Israel? Possibly. If I was the Iranians, that's what I would have done in the first hour of the war, because you're not going to get a chance to do it again. And probably would have done it as a preemptive thing before these idiots are coming for me. Launch everything that we've got. This is it. This is day X. Like, what? Why didn't they do that? Oh, we want peace. We want. Again, the Iranian politicians want to be half pregnant as well, man.
All right, so let me ask you. There's a pretty good segue here. So now, if you listen to Trump's speech, he seems to be betting a lot on the Iranian people rising up. He says, "This is your chance. This is your time. This is history. I've got you covered. I got your back. So it's up to you to change the course of your life. So what do you think? What do you think the chances are of a popular uprising in Iran?
I, that's a really good question, right? And the only people that really know are the people that are there in Iran. Like,
Yeah, but
if
I can't. I
just
can't. Their internet is down, so I can't do a Zoom call with them. So I have
it's
to ask
hard.
you.
It's like how do they come to that calculus? Like, there's somebody around the leadership there in the White House saying to them, "Yeah, man, this is what's going on." And we saw that a couple of what is it a month or two ago now, but apparently 30 odd thousand people were killed.
Yeah.
So part of the reason that you guys have the First Amendment there, and I think all countries in the world should have, you know, you guys are the least dirty shirt in a dirty washing basket. It's
Hmm.
the least worst option, your form of government. And the idea behind it and the promise of it is the best of all of them. The people who wrote those documents were very smart back in the day. And the right to bear arms, that First Amendment that you have, is designed is designed to stop government tyranny. We
Hmm.
have government tyranny here in Australia. It's tyranny
But
where they take away systematically take away your rights in in a Sharia country where they have Sharia law, where they have morality police running around slapping women up the side of their head because their hijab's not covering their forehead enough. Like, that is the ultimate tyranny, and the government has all the guns.
hmm
And I just think even if you work for the government, in a place like I work for the government, and I think the government are a bunch of dickheads, but you still follow the orders, and you still do as you're told because that's your job. You chose to do that. So those people in the army, those people in the police, in their militias and the underground militias that they have, and the subversion that they have within their society, it's a little bit like the SA that they had in the Third Reich. The Third Reich had the SA and the SS, and the SA, the brown shirts, they were the ones where they were a bunch of thugs, and they went around threatening everybody that unless you do this, unless you vote this way, this is what's going to happen. Come on, get on board, vote. It's better anyway. Do it. And they would try and coerce them like harshly and viciously. And that's what this society is as well. This Sharia society where they run around saying you better be a good camel jockey. You better. Because if you're not a good camel jockey, this is what's going to happen to you. And the consequences is you getting strung up on a crane. And we've seen it thousands and thousands and thousands of times. Like, it's just horrendous how tyrannical that society is. So if you were in a society like that, if I live in a tyranny right now, and it's something like that's never going to happen in Australia because Australia is a peaceful country and it's a prosperous country, and we can pretty much do and say whatever we want, irrespective of whether or not we do or don't have guns. I could never see something like that happening here. But under a Sharia law tyranny, would you, as an individual, would you go and rally your mates together and go, come on, man, Donald Trump's got our back, and he said this is the only chance that we're going to get? There's very few people, man, that are part of the warrior class. There's very few people that are part of something that's bigger than them that would be willing to sacrifice their lives for the greater good. And we saw 30 odd thousand people mowed down, if that is true. Whether it was 30,000 or it was one person, it doesn't matter. The government turned the guns that they have that are designed to protect their society on the people that they were supposed to protect. And that's what tyranny is. Governments don't have to do that with just guns. Governments can do that with policy. They can do that with taxes. They can do that with curbing your freedom of speech. A tyranny is something that is turned against the people that it's designed to protect. And that government is a tyranny. And I'm afraid that the weak men that we have in modern society, especially in Australia, because we don't have a warrior class, we don't have a warrior culture. We've got a culture of soy boy latte drinking people that just want to buy as much property as possible and get as much capital gain as they can. It's like a strange society that we have. It's the polar opposite and the paradox of the tyranny in Iran. I wonder, is there enough people in Iran to rise up and to put their life on the line and go, righto, the first thing that we need to do is to go and actually assault that position and get some weapons. We don't have any weapons. What are we going to do? How are we going to outmaneuver these guys? Are we going to talk them out of their barracks? Are we going to try and be nice to them and say, listen, man, you better come. There's like 4,000 of us out the front here and there's only 200 of you. Yeah, but I've got like 4,000 rounds on my machine gun here. I don't care. Come.
Well, okay.
Like, do you think they'll rise up? Do you think that there's enough in there, enough hatred of the government in society to actually do that? I'm not sure, man. What a gamble that is. That's the ultimate gamble by the American administration.
Well, and he is making a gamble. Listen, in every poll out there, a potential war with Iran is wildly unpopular.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So this was an act of leadership. So he made this decision knowing that the people don't like this idea. But maybe he has intel that he has access to that none of us else have. And he just, I mean, look, that's part of leadership, right? Making the tough decisions, the tough calls. Trump likes to be popular. So for him to make this kind of a decision where he knows right out of the gate is not a popular topic among people, he must have really strong convictions that this is the right thing to do. What I'm wondering though is how the game was played out. I mean, what do they call it? The game theory. You know, when you have the guy at the Pentagon saying, "Well, if this happens, this could happen, and if that does happen, this could happen." This kind of scenario has to be like impossible to game out, right?
There's no more people doing that, Ed. It's AI.
Well, yeah, yeah.
The AI is making the calculus to attack Iran.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, probably.
that's the AI playing 5 million D chess and all of that thing. I would amplify what you're saying. I think that attacking Iran is a deeply unpopular thing for the American constituency, deeply unpopular. But equally, I think the Iranian regime is equally unpopular. So that see, like if you looked at the scale and you went, why are we attacking Iran? Like, what has that got to do with us? Oh, did you know that's a tyranny and they do this? Yes, attack them. Like the calculus kind of comes together. I don't think anybody in the Western world would agree that Iranian tyranny and that type of Sharia law and that type of repression and that type of daily murder and daily disgusting belief in an evil medieval ideology. I don't believe that most reasonable people would think it would be a good idea to live under that. For some people in New York where you live, they think it's a good idea. For some people down the road here where I live in Bankstown, they think it's a good idea too. Well, piss off and go and live there. Go, get out of here. Like, really? If that's the ideology and the tyranny that you want to live under and that's what you want to subject yourself to, go for it. That's all power to you. But most people don't believe that that's a good idea.
Well, those people in Bankstown, they're on a mission. They're there because they want to convert you, man. Same thing in the UK. I saw an interview on Piers Morgan. He asked him, well, you know, if you, why don't you move back to, you know,
piss off.
Piss off. And he says, well, no, I'm here because you guys are liberal. First of all, you're liberal, so you let me in. So he's thinking, stupid, what idiots, right? Then he said, because he said, yeah, but if you tried to open a church in my country, yeah, you'd be killed. Okay.
People think that this is a new phenomenon, but in Australia, actually, I've been dealing with this shit my whole life. I grew up in that part of the world in Western Sydney and was always under the continuous threat that I was going to be bashed by the Lebs from Bankstown. But the Lebs from Bankstown came around a couple of times and fucked around and found out. Yeah. And they found out the hard way that there's more of us than there is of them. And they got their absolute asses handed to them, especially when I was like a teenager. And especially I played a lot of sport when I was a kid. I played football and there was always big fucking tough guys on the other side. And always, man, we always beat them. Always, every single time. All they are is talk. And, you know, and unless you convert, I'm going to tax you or I can kill you. That's their ideology.
Yeah.
Their actual written physical ideology is actually inciting violence. They're the ones inciting violence against me, and they're trying to tax me. Good luck, tax me. Go. Good luck, try. Or you're threatening my existence. Like, okay, try. Good luck. It's all talk. Everybody, it's all fake. What the way that I describe them is they're like trannies. Yeah, they're like men pretending to be women. You're like a dude running around in a dress, because if it were true what you believed, you would be on the other side of the world with an AK in your hand fighting. But because you don't know the muzzle from the butt and you wouldn't know the 4 degrees of weapon readiness, that all you can do is scream and shout. And the people that scream and shout the loudest are the ones that never do any of the fighting.
Okay,
None of the
okay.
fighting.
Okay, it's hard for me to disagree with you because you know the subject matter so well. But I think I disagree a little bit on that because the people who are in these Western countries, uh, even though they hate the ethos of those countries, are there. They're there on a mission. They're there to they want to take over the world. Their mission is to turn the entire world a Muslim. So they're on a mission. So they don't have to be in their home country because it's already Muslim. So they see it, well, my job is to go out there to be a missionary for Islam and convert everyone. And we see the most popular, the most common baby name in England now is what? What is it, Bob?
Jonathan.
it's it's Muhammad, right? The most common baby name in England now is Muhammad, and they're having tons of babies. Meanwhile, the regular Englishmen are not having babies. That's the
So what do you think? What do you think about this then? Just on that very point where you say they're here, they're on a mission. What happens if the Israelis and the Americans are successful in a regime change and you're able to bomb everybody that was part of that parliament and that regime? You're able to get rid of them, and even if they've got 5 levels, 10 levels deep of contingencies in there, you're able to keep bombing that contingency and keep getting rid of them. I think by the time you're at the second level, you've kind of, those folks on that side receiving the 2,000-pound JDAMs are going to run out of steam. And like, who's going to put their hand up to say, I'm going to be the minister of X, knowing that there's going to be like a round coming through the roof shortly, because for some reason, I don't know, they know that I've been sworn in as the minister of X, and now there's a 2,000-pound bomb coming in. So what happens to the country at that point? The country rises up like Donald Trump is suggesting. Okay, now's your chance. Go and seize control. This is the only time in your lifetime, in the foreseeable next 100 years, that you're going to be able to seize control of that. I would suggest to you that if something like that happened here in Australia, there's a lot of criminal elements in every society. It doesn't matter where it is, and they've got the guns. And the criminal elements of society end up taking over because they've got the guns and they're already organized because they're criminal organizations. Those organizations potentially could take over. And you might end up with something that might not necessarily be a religious tyranny, but it could be a criminal cartel, a la Venezuela, a la Colombia, a la Mexico. All of these types of things, you might get something that's much worse. Remember when Paul Bremer went into Iraq as the so-called person taking over, and he said, this has to be the complete de-Baathification of Iraq. But what are you talking about, man? Everybody was part of the Ba'ath Party. How can you get rid of everybody? You're getting rid of everyone from a school teacher to a bureaucrat that sits at the front desk of that school to get the kids organized for recess. And they were part of the Ba'ath Party because that's just how life was. No, it has to be the complete de-Baathification of Iraq. And then 3 months later, everyone's like, well, when are we getting paid? Well, thanks for the freedom and thanks for getting rid of that guy. He was a bit of a dickhead, but when are we getting paid? No one's getting paid. They pick up guns and go, fucking, you're going to pay? Because everyone at home in Baghdad has got an AK and they got like 20 rounds or they got like 20 magazines of ammunition ready to go. Like, come on, man. Like, what? So this is the same thing that's going to happen in Iran. They get rid of the leadership, but then what?
Well, yeah, there's always going to be another maniac standing in line ready to take the place. No, I get that. No, and I think that I don't think Trump would try to take on Islam. Quote, he's not going to start a war against Islam because it's unwinnable. It's like trying to keep the tides from coming in. It's an unwinnable. But what you can do is try to neuter an actual threat that's right in front of you. I think Trump's argument is he doesn't want them to be a nuclear state. He doesn't want them to have a nuclear bomb. Hold on.
Let's talk about that very point for a second, because I think that right there is the miscalculation that the Americans are making. The Israelis just want to get rid of them because they're a direct threat. They're an existential threat, right? I understand it. But Trump has come up with the excuse that you can never have a nuclear bomb, right? Cool. But and I saw him say something which was really telling. He goes, "What do they want nuclear for when they got all that oil?" That's a really, really good question. But this is the miscalculation. They've always had all of that oil. They've always had all of that, but still they're the world's biggest, apparently, sponsor of terrorism, and that's where all of this ideology comes from, and that's where all this bullshit comes from. If that is true, okay, cool, I'll accept what you're saying. I'll accept the propaganda and say it's true. Even if it's not true, they've still got all of the oil and all of that wealth, but they still have these nuclear ambitions. I think maybe the miscalculation is that Trump thinks that the Iranians want to be rich like America, and the Iranians could be rich like America. But the Iranians genuinely don't care about being rich because they're already rich enough, because the people in power are rich. They don't care about the constituency. Donald Trump is somebody that genuinely cares about the middle class, genuinely cares about the workers, and cares about the constituency, because he was always working with those people. And without those people, he never could have been as successful as he did. So he's genuine when he comes from that position of, I care about the workers, I care about all of these things. But the Iranian leadership have everything they could ever possibly ask for and need, including the religious tyranny. They don't care about money. They don't care about anything. Their strange ideology is that you need to die for the cause, and then you'll get your however many virgins. I don't know why you'd want one of those anyway, but that's actually what they want. Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's see if we can organize that for you. But even if you get rid of the regime, how are you going to get somebody else in there that's different with that same thinking and that same ideology that's been there for 40 odd years to do something different along the lines of, oh, we're going to be the most capitalist, richest country in the world, and we'll come together with Saudi Arabia and say sorry to them, and we'll come together. Like, maybe you're just living like in a bit of a dream world in that respect. Like, it's hard to actually think through, and the only thing that can think it all through is the AI.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you on that point. Is I think Donald Trump is an old school capitalist, and he believes peace is best achieved through capitalism, because everyone wants to make money. So but
that's the miscalculation.
They don't want to make money. I agree. That I think that is because I think I think that religion. It's not a religion. I don't know why I even said that. Sorry, guys. Islam is not a religion. But that ideology, it is fanatical, and it is focused on taking over the world. They want to take over the world, and you have to subjugate yourself. And you're either Muslim or you're not. This is very binary. And if you're not Muslim, you ought to either die or pay us tax. Or
we'll get somebody down to Bondi Beach to make you comply.
Oh God! Wow, yeah, that's right. So so I don't think that. So I think Trump. I think he's old school that way in his thinking, but I don't know if he thinks that is going to be the solution in this case. It's I mean, if his objective is just to neuter their nuclear capabilities, do they have to do this? Do they have to go this far?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I don't think there's any other way to stop that nuclear ambition. Because if you're going to go and destroy all of their command and control, you destroy all of their military facilities and the infrastructure that matters around all of those things. Even if you didn't get the leadership, you're going to set them back 35 years, because it takes a long time to rebuild that factory. It takes a long time to get another missile launching system. And if he's serious about it and doesn't be half pregnant and end this thing in the next 2 days, and it goes on for the next year, then you will win. Then they'll be forced to capitulate. The so-called new leadership will eventually run out of missiles to fire. They run out of the resolve to actually do what they need to do. One of the things that the Taliban did very effectively, it's called the graveyard of empires for a reason. And really, when you look at it, it's like, you should never have gone in there, man. Ever. Yeah. The reason you should never have gone in there is because you didn't learn the lessons of history. And the fundamental lesson of history is that it's an exponential threat that that they're facing, but it's warfare that requires you to go onto their ground. And they're like, well, whatever, man, like, just shoot away, bomb away, whatever. I remember reading stories of the Russians in Afghanistan in the 1980s. And remember, that was the thing that brought down communism. That was the reason why. The Russians would turn up to these villages, the bad guys would be shooting at them, the Russians would be on the hill, they'd call in artillery airstrikes and raze the whole place to the ground. There was nothing left. It was all gone. The Russians would be like, okay, cool. And they'd drive through there, they'd go to the next part, and then suddenly from behind, they'd be getting shot at again. Be like, didn't we we just destroyed everything that's there? No, man, you didn't destroy everything because they live there. And no matter what happens, the people live in Iran, they're still going to be there. And the crazy people that are in Iran are still going to be there. You can get rid of the leadership, you can get rid of all of that political class, but remember, that is like 0.0001% of society. You know, in the scheme of things, the people that are in control of Iran is probably the inner. It's like Putin's inner circle. There'd be less than 24 people. You know, it's like concentric rings. There'd be like 5 people in the inner circle. Then outside of that, there's 2 advisors each. There's 10 people. Then there's 20, and then there's 30, and there's 50. And even if you put that footprint out to 1,000 people that were part of the political leadership and they were part of this class of system, if you got rid of those 1,000 people, you still can't rid the world of things you don't like. There's still going to be another 1,000 people that have a different, more extreme version of ideology, or maybe a more moderate version of ideology, but they still don't like something that they do. You just have to look across the way into Saudi Arabia, man. You know, a couple of times a month, they bring them out into the town square and cut their hands off for stealing shit. This medieval ideology, and everyone lines up to say, oh, okay, let's go watch. Like, what is this medieval ideology? But they're one of our closest allies. And now that Riyadh's been attacked, you know, Riyadh says, well, we're going to come together and we're going to support the Emiratis. Really? I didn't think you liked those guys, because you guys are both being attacked. You're going to bring your Air Force into it now? Yeah, we're going to bring our Air Force into it. Okay, cool. Well, you know, is that Donald Trump forcing the Abraham Accords to come together against the great evil of Iran? Maybe. I don't know, man. These calculuses are always based around the Western ideology that these people who are different want what we want. The Houthis in Yemen don't want what we want. They want to live in sandals and man dresses and live in abject poverty. They don't give a fuck, man. They don't give a fuck, because their number one goal is to die for their cause. It's a strange ideology. They're not scared of death. They don't want to die. They encourage that. That's what they want. There's footage going around I saw in the last couple of days before this kicked off in the last 24 hours where Pakistan are attacking Afghanistan and Afghanistan are attacking Pakistan. And both sides are saying, oh, we've got battalions of suicide bombers that we're going to unleash. What? And there's footage of some guy in a man dress in the middle of the night walking up to a Pakistani post and blowing himself up. And he kills like 4 people. Like, you just have to think of the mindset and the ideology of these people to actually go and do that. Your life is so unbelievably precious. Your freedom is so unbelievably precious. And God bless the people that protect our freedom and give that to us, the people that speak out, the people that lead us and their words to allow us to have these conversations, to do these things, because the alternative is awful, man. I've seen the alternative firsthand. When I was in Timor on the first trip, I don't have many army stories, as you know, and I don't have many things really to say about that because I'm in low-level peacekeeping operations. But the Indonesian government decided that they would give the Timorese the opportunity to vote whether or not they wanted to be free from Indonesia and govern themselves. And they said yes. Overwhelmingly, they said yes. But the people that were there, the Indonesians that were there, that had ruled that underground society for the last 40 years or whatever it was before I got there, I think it was something like that. I think it was the year I was born, 1977, I think what it was when they went there. Indonesian paratroopers jumped in there and all this bullshit, took over society, and they subjugated the Timorese people, who are peace-loving farmers, because there's freaking nothing there. It's like it's a tropical island with, it's very hard to live in this environment. But those Indos that were there ruled that society. And when the Timorese went, no, we don't want to be part of Indonesia, they went around and killed them all. That's tyranny. That's the tyranny of it. And I've seen that firsthand with my own eyes. I've seen the result of tyranny. And that's why I'm an advocate for freedom. That's why I'm an advocate for free speech. That's why I think we should have weapons available to us, because the government can turn on you at any second. And the government can turn all of the power and all of the resources that they want against you and shut you down. They can put you in jail. They can put you in a lockdown. They can force you to inject something into you, or you're not going to be part of society. Tyranny is like worse, the absolute worst thing, and your freedom is so precious. But these people in Yemen, these people in Iran, this leadership in Iran, they don't see freedom as something that is valuable to them, because their ideology and their medieval religion says that your death for the cause is a much greater thing. And I can prove that to you in about 2 seconds, because every time I see something in our media, if and when we start taking losses, they will be an absolute catastrophe. And you'll see. And if you've ever had anybody near to you that's passed away for any reason, whether in an accident as a result of somebody's negligent or just natural causes, it's a catastrophe. Somebody's passing near you is a catastrophe. And our media reports it as such, whether that's mainstream media or whether that's independent journalists, because we understand the value of human life. And I can prove to you in 1 second, if I just hold up my phone and show you the Telegram channels of Iran and the Iranian propaganda, those people call them martyrs.
Yeah.
Like they wanted it. No, right. Man. He was martyred. 30,000 people were martyred by the government. Did they ask for those machine gun rounds? No. They didn't ask for that. They didn't die for a cause. So how come when one of these people from this medieval ideology dies, they're referred to as a martyr, but they only refer to certain ones as martyrs? A lot of it doesn't make sense to me. And it goes to the argument of moral equivalence. And we're always talking about this moral equivalence. Oh, you shouldn't bomb them into oblivion. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. But man, their ideology seeks to subjugate us. And can you rid the world of that? I don't know, Ed. Like, it's such a. I'm so torn between these things that it's difficult to even talk about for me sometimes, because I've spent so much time talking about it that I almost don't want to talk. I just want to go and ride my motorbike, man, and go and enjoy the blue skies and the open roads with no people around. Yeah, like, it's just easier not to think about it. Take the blue pill or the red. I want to take the blue pill, go back into the matrix and eat a fucking steak.
Okay. Well, one last quick question before you get on your bike again. Okay. So I really don't think that Trump will ever put boots on the ground. I think that idea is just abhorrent to him. I don't think he doesn't want. I mean, he spent years bashing all the previous presidents who got into these unending wars. So I don't think he wants that on his resume. I don't think he wants that as a legacy. So the question is, how much can he really accomplish with just air power, and military power, and missiles? How much can they really get done without having to put boots on the ground?
This is the problem with the calculus, right? Like, you could probably get rid of all of the leadership. Assume that they can. Assume that they know where they are. There's 2 to 20 rounds each for each one of them. We'll get them eventually. We got them. Now they're 3 or 4 deep. We got them too. Like, because this is a prolonged, protracted thing that goes on for a couple of months. We got all of them too. Are they running out of steam? Are they going to capitulate yet? Are they going to do that? Okay. Are the Iranian people rising up? What do we need to do to help them to rise up? And that's what he's saying. He's trying to avoid the mistakes of the past, where we put 700,000 troops into Kuwait, then to Iraq, and then we try and liberate this place or whatever. Or, you're putting thousands and thousands of lives at risk in Afghanistan when you first go there. And I think you're quite right. It's not that it's abhorrent. It's like, is it really necessary? Because we tried all that before and it doesn't work. And that's why it's a never-ending war, because it simply doesn't work. So if you can force the enemy to capitulate, meaning they run out of steam and they have no more command and control, like, even if all the leadership are destroyed, and say I'm number 3 in line to succession, number 1 and number 2 are gone, I step up to number 3. Okay, cool. Now I know what I need to. Where's the orders? Where's the book? There's the book. Okay, cool. They're ready because they're organized. They're ready. Okay, cool. This is what they need me to do. Launch here, like this, do that. But that makes sense in the military sense. But if suddenly I'm the minister of health, or I'm the minister of sport, or I'm the minister of, I don't know, fucking roads or infrastructure or something like that, like, what's the next thing I've got to do? How am I? Like, there's no communication. There's no way for me to communicate. I need to talk to that guy down the road to fix the building that's been knocked over by a bomb or a TLAM. Like, how am I going to get organized? How do you do anything? How does society do anything? They communicate. And if communication is gone and we can get in the middle of that communication, then that's the idea. And I think if you're 3 or 4 deep in lines of succession and you're continuously wiping those out, eventually they'll capitulate. Eventually they go, well, look, we can't do anything. All right, we surrender. because their society will cease to function. But the Ukrainian, that's also a miscalculation as well, because the Ukrainian society hasn't ceased to function, despite the Russian airstrikes every single day on the main city there. Their society still functions.
I mean, look, I don't know what the way I see it is if operations are still going on 3 months from now, 4 months from now, in any form, they do an occasional bombing here, it's going to be a failure. Because it's gonna turn into a forever war in its own way. It's just gonna be a constant source of stress, a constant source of it's not gonna be a productive activity. And I mean, what are they getting on it? What's the ROI of doing that?
No more nuclear weapons.
Right. At some point, I think he's gonna have to declare victory. Say, hey, you know what? Mission accomplished. Okay, we're pulling out. Even
that was a mistake. That one.
yeah. That's a way of saving face. But I think I can't imagine that Trump wants to be stuck in a forever war. He doesn't want this as part of his legacy. He's going to find a way. He's going to find a way to declare a victory.
You want to have a clearly defined end state. I thought we obliterated their nuclear program last year. Apparently we didn't. Or even if we did, just take it at face value. We obliterated that. Okay, cool. We obliterated it, but now they started again. So that's why we've got to get. Okay, cool. Remember, there's historical precedent to everything that you're saying. This is not the first merry-go-round. We've been around this thing dozens of times in our lifetimes, which is really, that's a shame, man. It's a shame that we have to talk about this again. But at the end of the first Gulf War, people have got such short memories and they forget all of this stuff. At the end of the first Gulf War, the objective was to kick the Iraqis out of Kuwait because we didn't want the Iraqis on the border of Saudi Arabia, which they could have taken, but for some reason, they didn't. And I think it was because during the Iran-Iraq War, Iraq protected Kuwait, and he goes, hey, now you have to pay us. We're completely broke because of all that shit. No, piss off, they said. Bad luck. And he sends his army down there to go and seize everything. And then on the way out, he set fire to everything and said, well, if I can't have it, no one can have it. Get the fuck. And they're so spiteful, these people, right? And just causing human catastrophes and environmental catastrophes. Remember those oil fires?
Oh, yeah.
On the way out?
Do. Absolutely.
And remember the Iraqis leaving up Hell Highway. Yeah, it was called Hell Highway for a reason. The Iraqi army was withdrawing and the American Air Force tore them a new asshole. They bombed the front, they bombed the end. There was no room to go, and they just lit them up. There was thousands of people that were killed there.
The Apaches just went through and they just mowed them down.
You remember that well.
The highway of death.
What happened after it?
The highway of death is what they call it. What?
You remember what happened after it?
Well, I do. I'm not sure what you're referring to. The oil companies came in and took over. They put out the fires in very quick order. What do you mean?
So the political precedent for our so-called victory had been set. And so the directive at the time, George Bush said, well, he can't be in Kuwait. We're going to send our military and get him out of Kuwait. And we're going to protect our key ally, Saudi Arabia, in the process, right? That was the real motivation behind it, because we didn't want the Iraqis taking over the Saudis, which they could have easily have done, which would have caused chaos with the petrodollar at the time. The Americans would have lost their standing in the world as the hegemonic power, and then it would have all unraveled from there. So it was a bit of a masterstroke from George Bush, and that wasn't really a CIA operation when you look at it from that perspective, although they did say, yes, you can go in there. Donald Rumsfeld is on record saying, yeah, go for it, to the Iraqis, that is, at that point. Because remember, Saddam was put there by the CIA and Donald Rumsfeld many years before, because he was CIA trained in Egypt. That's where it all came from. Anyway, the historical precedent that I'm talking about is after we ejected all of those Iraqis from Iraq and killed them, or from Kuwait, and destroyed the vast majority of their military machine that was in there on the way out, the Kurds in Iraq had nowhere. The Kurds forever have had no land. And now the Kurds have a large part of Syria, and the Turks don't like it, and they're continuously bombing them there. But back in the day, they said, we'll continue fighting, the Kurds, that is, against the Iraqi army, and then we can have our little piece of our patch of land that we've always wanted and we've always needed for our people. The Kurdish people that's a real thing. They're in Iraq. We're rising up. And the Americans said, yep, you do that, we'll support you. So they started doing that. And then the Iraqis came down with their Air Force and their attack helicopters and started getting rid of all this Kurdish problem. What is this bullshit? And the Americans went, well, on second thoughts, we're not going to do that.
That's right.
And to begin with, remember, they were half pregnant. Yeah.
Yep.
They were half pregnant because they sent the American or the Allied Air Force and the Navy forces up to go and get rid of the Iraqi Air Force and the Iraqi army and their attack helicopters from attacking the Kurds. But they didn't supply close air support to the Kurds, and the Kurds eventually got rolled up by the Iraqi army, and it stopped. And if you remember correctly, that was the southern no-fly zone and the northern no-fly zone. And when I was there, that was part of what we were doing. And I can remember leaving Bahrain, and RAF British Tornadoes would go and fly the southern no-fly zone. So they would take off from Bahrain and from down further south in the UAE, and they would just track up against the coast, and they would always fly past us. And they'd fly past us, like at 50 feet off the water with their train following radars, like 2 Tornadoes.
Cool.
And sometimes then they go fly the patrols, they go fly back and forth up around the line, and on the way back, they'd always come past and buzz us and that as well. And there's a couple of times there's a few different F-16s that came and that as well. And then the US Navy had their F-18s and F-14s going patrolling up in that part of the world as well. But the historical precedent was that I'm referring to, and it's what you said, that Trump at some point has to declare an end state. Back in those days, George Bush declared the end state. Okay, we got rid of all the Iraqis from Kuwait. Oh, this is still continuing to go on. Oh, we can't have that. Oh, but we can't be seen to be supporting the Kurds. Oh, well, the half-pregnant compromise was the Iraqis, if you come south of this line, or you go north of that line, because they enforced it from the Mediterranean side and with air power from aircraft carriers on the northern side, if you come down past this line, we're going to attack you. And I can remember sitting right up against the coast of Iraq and pulling the radar all the way out, clicking to 512 miles. And the radar can't see 512 miles, of course. It can only see just a bit over the horizon. The air search radar can see a little bit further and that as well. But you would be in a data link. And so in the link, you could see, back in the day, it was called Link 11. These days, we have different links, Link 16, and there's a bunch of different ones. But we were here, and this warship was here a couple hundred miles away, and this warship here a couple hundred miles away, a couple hundred miles away, and you can see complete coverage from. I could see everybody else's picture, they could see our picture, and we're in the link. We can all see each other's stuff, right? And that's how we have complete coverage and complete air dominance, because we can all see each other's pictures, and we can all give each other early warning if something is coming. You know exactly where to look. But on the air search radar, you could turn the air search radar all the way out to the 512 miles, I think it was, when you clicked it on an FFG. And you couldn't see that far, but you could see the transponders. So when an aircraft is flying, it has its own IFF transponder, and it would have the different modes in the transponders, so you can see them. So in civilian aircraft these days, we have a thing called ADS-B, Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast, which means the radar on the ground no longer has to see you. So the radar would sweep around and take a sweep of where you were, and your transponder would be picked up by the secondary surveillance radar receiver, and you'd see exactly where it was. These days, the aircraft report their own position. They say, here I am at this height, this speed, this altitude. And it's mandatory for all aircraft, from the little bug smashers that I fly to all the way up to airliners these days. Back in the day, there was a U-2 spy plane at 80,000 feet over the top of Iraq. Yeah. So the U-2s would fly like racetracks around there, and the U-2 would fly around. And obviously that's part of monitoring the no-fly zone, because they've got radars and different instruments that they can see, and they can see space-based infrared as well, can look down and see the afterburner of an aircraft as well. And the afterburner of an aircraft is like your fingerprint. So I know what the afterburners are. I know what that aircraft is. I know where it came from. I know its capabilities, what weapons it could have, what threat it represents, et cetera, et cetera. So we could see that type of information, or we couldn't see that. They could see that, and they could tell us about where the no-fly zones were. So then when the Combat Air Patrol would track north and they would replace somebody, they would make sure that they'd be replacing them. This is how all the intelligence pictures come together, right? So what we have to understand is that the Gulf War, how long did that last? It was a 100-hour ground war, but it was a big 3 or 4 month build up to it. It was an air campaign that went for a week, 2 weeks. I can't remember how long that went. It was such a long time ago. And then there was a 100-hour ground war. They got rid of everyone out of Kuwait then. But then it went on for years and
Hmm.
years and years and years and years. And
Hmm.
that's the reason that for the presence in the Persian Gulf, right? And then when 9/11 happened, which was all fake and was all like created by somebody else, it happened. It was real. There's no doubt about that. But it was concocted. Then we needed a boogeyman. We were already there. We needed to go back. We went back. Like, but Saddam never had weapons of mass destruction. He never had any of that. But we're in a history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Oh, they've got nuclear weapons. They're trying to get nuclear. Where, bro? Oh, we got rid of their nuclear program. Really? Yeah, trust but verify. Yeah, how am I gonna just Ronald Reagan said it, man. I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you to say that that's true. You want the best for everybody, and you're trying, and you're a real leader, and for all your faults, you're actually pretty good. But I can't verify anything that you're saying. And then we're going to end up in this protracted no-fly zone conflict bullshit that goes on for the next 20 years, pulling the why on earth was an Australian warship right up against the coast of Iraq? What? Because the Americans said, "Hey, bring a ship up here. You have to contribute something. Come on, let's go." And then a couple of years later, when the Gulf War, the second Gulf War kicked off, we had HMAS Anzac right up against the coast doing naval gunfire support with, like, I think it was British Marines, maybe something like that, firing 5-inch rounds over the horizon, getting the Brits, I think it was the Brits, getting them out of trouble there. They called it, from memory, 5-inch Friday, something like that. It was a Friday. And the 5-inch gun, like doing NGS a la Vietnam War style, because the ship has got such a shallow draft, can get right up against the coast, and the NGS actually worked and got them out of the shit. We're going to end up in some bullshit like that for a protracted period of time. God, I hope not, Ed. I hope not, man. What a ridiculous depletion of the country's youth and our treasure. It's
Oh,
just not
yeah.
necessary.
Well, the financial markets are paying close attention, and we'll
Oh,
see.
see
And
Bitcoin?
what's that? Oh, yeah, yeah, oh
See
yeah.
Bitcoin?
I talked about my video earlier today. Yeah, but on the other hand, Bitcoin has recovered. I mean, it had
Mm.
a big dip, and now it's recovered, not fully, at least not as of this recording. We'll see. But come Sunday night, the street. In my opinion, the financial markets is the best predictor of pretty much anything, because you have the smartest people who are they have to be right because money's on the line, and when money is involved, these guys are going to do. I think as a collective, the street is a really good predictor. Most times they get it right. So for me, as a consumer, I would say, just a consumer of the news, what I would say is, all right, I listen to all you talking heads, but what's the market telling me? So if going into Monday morning, let's say the futures are not down very much, or maybe they're up a little bit, then the smart guys on the street have done their own analyses, said, you know what? I'm not really that worried about it. On the other hand, if you see the market puking, all right, this is not looking very good. So I
Yeah,
always
it's
look at,
actually a pretty good leading indicator, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because it's
So
a leading indicator of human sentiment.
yeah,
Like not normally the market is about fear and greed, but when you're talking about times of crisis like now, like in wartime scenarios, and does it seem like we have the upper hand? Does it seem like they have the upper hand, or is this just the opening salvos of something that goes on forever? And hopefully we don't end up in a southern and northern no-fly zone BS with a tyrannical regime that's 10 times worse, trying to get chemical weapons and doing all sorts of stupid things on the other side of it, man. Like, yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? It's certainly an interesting time to be alive. And man, we've
yeah,
seen a lot in our lifetimes. When you hear about those stories, oh, this woman was born in 1903 and she lived for 100 years and she saw all of that through her lifetime. I feel like all of that is compressed in just 20 years for people like you and me. It's amazing.
yeah. Well, look, especially with AI, we're at the singularity right now,
Yeah.
as Elon Musk, insists. There's, he insists we are in the singularity right now. And most people are still not that concerned about it. They're still not they're not really
Good.
aware. I mean,
That's
look,
good.
and a little teaser here for the audience. So I do plan on doing a video real soon here about uh, uh, about the advent of AI, and how 5 years from now, there can be a lot of jobs gone. There's already a lot of jobs that are obsolete. Just think of all those poor programmers who went to school to study computer programming for years, and they got their master's degree and they got their doctorate degree. Obsolete. You're irrelevant.
Gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the facade of education being your savior is being pulled back. That curtain has been revealed, and there's nothing behind it. There's a clown.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one side of that coin is he also said, and I'll include this. I don't know if you saw this interview. It's like an hour long. It's a fascinating interview. The best one I ever saw him do. He's talking to two other geeks, so they're talking shop. So they're using terms that none of us knew, but you knew they knew but you got the gist of what they're
The
talking
gist of
about.
it, yeah.
And he said, you know what? Pretty soon here, you're not going to have to save for retirement anymore.
Mm. Yeah,
And
I did see that.
yeah, you saw that? Okay. And I know what he meant by that because I'm in a couple programs that have AI generated trading. And one is it actually going to launch like next week, by the way. And that is true. It's not one of those bots who say they're artificial intelligence. This is an actual artificial intelligence. This is the real deal. But people these days, instead of putting your money into a 401k that's managed by Peter Lynch, and he's going through the paper looking for stocks, no. This is no. People who adopt AI in their investing, yeah, people's retirements are going to be secured, in my opinion, a lot faster than in the old days. And so like you said, we're entering a fascinating part of history right here. This is going to be
Well, the future might not unravel the way that you think, right? Like everyone goes, "Oh, AI is going to take my job," or humanoid robots are going to replace, blue collar workers or whatever, or some bullshit like that. But yeah, yes, and yes, maybe that's all true. But to your point, if you take $10,000 and tip it into a program like you're talking about, all of a sudden I'm producing like cash flow, and as that cash flow compounds, I'm getting more cash flow. Then I say to myself, well, why would I go to that job that I really don't like that much? The job's okay, but I don't really like the people that much. So money gives me the choice not to actually put up with those people anymore. Sayonara, see you later. Like, and that's got nothing to do with retiring. That's got nothing to do with AI either. It's got to do with your ability to have the choice. And the reason you've got the choice is because you made the right decision at the right time and your timing worked, and this is what happened to you. So yeah, that's a super interesting observation as well. It happens in a multiple different ways where somebody automates something within an organization which no longer requires the person, or the person is replaced by a robot. The person is no longer required, but equally, there's something there that the person no longer needs to do it either because of the tools that they've got access to for themselves as well, which is pretty interesting too.
Well, Rob, this is always fun. I'll let you get on your bike and take your ride. So thanks for taking the time, man. I know I caught you early in the day and you weren't expecting to do this today. So thank you for taking the time. Always so much fun to talk to you.
My pleasure, man. Go Team America.
Yeah. Say hi to Suze.
Will do. See you, mate.
Okay, bye.